Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Marie and myself, Coach David Syvertson. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I'm Coach David Syvertson. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Marie. Today and next week, we have two really interesting topics to talk about that, quite frankly, many people just don't want to talk about. But to me, I think it's something that is under-discussed and has an enormous influence over our lives, and something that we should all be talking about and have open conversations and make ourselves vulnerable and admit things and talk about things to really help everyone kind of listen to different perspectives and have them maybe shape your viewpoint on a certain topic. And today's and next week's topic is social media and the influence it has on not the world. I don't want to go down outside of CrossFit, outside of health. So we're going to try to center this around CrossFit, health, fitness, healthy living as much as possible. I'm sure we might go off on a couple of tangents, but proof of how hard this can be to talk about. I asked 2 or 3 people to come on, and this has been something that we've been talking about for about a year, doing episode, and everyone said no. And
Really?
I don't think it was, no, I don't want to talk about that. Maybe some of it was schedule, or some of it was like, I just don't feel like I had much to offer. But I think it can be very uncomfortable to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And social media is something that predominantly most of us, I think the last stat I saw is 65% of the world is on social media. And you think about, third world countries and everything, like factoring them in that number as well. I think it was over 4.5 billion people. That it's everywhere. And it's one of the few things that we do every single day, right? We go to the bathroom, we drink water, we eat, and we're on social media. Those are the things that and sleep. Those are the things that we do every single day.
And the people that don't are the weird ones.
Yes.
Like when someone tells me, oh, I'm not on Instagram or Facebook, I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Or you're one of those. All right, no problem. I mean, not that it's bad. It sticks out a lot.
Right. You are not in the norm if you're off of it. And so I want to get into some of the business side first. Bison's Instagram and Facebook and social media, CrossFit's social media presence. Sam has some really interesting numbers to share from you there. And I kind of want to start off with that because CrossFit has had a lot of different leadership over the past 5 years now. Huge changes that people are just getting sick of. And it seems like right now the ship is steadying. And new leadership's doing a very good job. They still have a long ways to go to hit their goals. That Don Fall was in this room at this table talking about numbers that he wanted to hit, and they're still very far away from that. But I do like the direction. But Sam, what happened in 2019?
Yeah. In 2019, CrossFit Corporate, and at that time, Greg Glassman owned the company. It was his company. Withdrew from social media, and I don't know if a lot of us do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
The excuse was that there was some sort of Facebook group that was talking about paleo or a certain way of eating, and Facebook took them off or blocked them. And Glassman used that as an excuse that there was censorship in social media, and so he wouldn't engage in anything that was involved in censorship.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the CrossFit HQ's Instagram had 2.8 million. Right now, in 2023, yesterday, 1 million followers.
Wow. So basically cut in third.
Yeah, a third. CrossFit Games Instagram at the time had 2.4 million followers. Today, 1.8 million. So they have lost a tremendous amount of publicity, media presence, information that they could be sharing to people, because they withdrew back in 2019. And I don't think it's a mistake that people keep saying, why can't we be more like 2018? Mm-hmm. You know why? Because we were really popular back in 2018. We were ascendant. We had a lot of push, a lot of momentum, a lot of exposure. And I'm sure you'll talk about ESPN this year as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, we shot ourselves in the foot so badly withdrawing from when CrossFit withdrew from social media. And I don't know if we've ever recovered or how we're going to recover with that.
Yeah, and you might not. I think that's something that you say you just don't recover. Like those years, those years where he took it out is also coincided with where CrossFit, they took away the media team. They completely changed the CrossFit regionals, the CrossFit Games season, and everything that we knew of CrossFit at that point was essentially just kind of taken out from underneath us. And then you had the pandemic, which CrossFit did not make it through without some battle scars from that. We can get into that as well from Twitter, and that's the one, the one thing that Greg Glassman did not get rid of, that, maybe he's still CEO right now if he didn't make that one single tweet back then. We'll get into that at some point. But 2018, I remember that was the peak of CrossFit sport. And I say that with the number of, that was the most amount of people that had ever signed up for the Open. Since that time, it took a nosedive, and now, again, it is on the steady incline as well, but it is still now, today, not even close to what it was in 2018. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. So there was just a huge change in the CrossFit landscape back then, and social media was one of the main reasons why. Whether you love it or hate it, you have to acknowledge it's incredibly important, maybe even vital to the way that our lives are set up right now, where we get information, where we put out information, where people express themselves. A lot of people, some more than others, like really live for social media and what the content they put out or the content that they take in. To be a worldwide brand and take yourself out of the picture, you are going to be fighting uphill on mud. Like, you're just not going to be able to get back up to the top. You're just going to keep on slipping back and forth while everyone else is on the way up. They did not take themselves off of social media. Put yourselves in Greg Glassman's shoes. Let's say you're the CEO of CrossFit in 2019, Sam. Things are starting to go a little too sporty, not enough fitness, whether you agree with that or disagree with that. We've talked about that to nausea so far throughout the 100+ episodes that we've talked about. Would you have any desire whatsoever to take your company off of social media, even if there was some controversy around you?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
I run a business.
Mm-hmm.
I have a medical practice. I see how important social media is every day. I see what people are doing on social media every day. I see what other businesses are. If you are someone who has designs on being successful in business and you are a forward-facing company or a front-facing company, you're not, B2B or something like that. Like, obviously, if you're, not involved with clients or service, then maybe you're not really that involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have clients, if you are servicing a group or customers, how do you not engage in social media? That is the worst idea, especially when you have controversy. That is when you need to double down on social media. This is a very powerful tool, like probably the most powerful tool we've maybe encountered in terms of communication with humankind.
Yeah.
And I see how my children consume social media. It's actually generationally changing as well. Like, I can't even keep up with the changes that are going on in social media at this point. Like, you and I are mostly an Instagram generation.
Yep.
But Sasha is a Snapchat generation.
Never touched it in my
I
life.
know.
Yeah.
They are TikTok. And so the amount of content that they consume with their friend, like between their friends and communication on Snap and what they see on TikTok will define their values, what they consume, what they choose to buy, every day. And if you're a business and you're not involved on that level, you've lost. And
you're selling yourself short.
CrossFit has lost. I do not understand why Sasha's not telling me that she's seeing CrossFit on TikTok or, like, I don't understand it. Like, it blows my mind. I'm being dragged kicking and screaming into TikTok. And I've had
for your business?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've had someone start posting some stuff on there, and even the most initial things are getting hundreds and hundreds of views.
Wow.
And this is where you can't afford to miss on this. I mean, let's look at CrossFit Bison right now.
Yep.
So there are 3,143 followers on Instagram.
Yep.
1,390 posts. That's pretty good, I would assume. I don't know. How do you feel about CrossFit Bison and business social media and what that role plays for you?
So to really give an answer on that, I look back on why I started it. And we started it in year 1. And I've never been a huge social media guy. I was late to Facebook. Didn't have my own Instagram account until 2018. But when Bison opened up in 2014, I was like, oh, I'll make one. I put it under my name. And our early posts, I was writing posts as David Syvertson, not CrossFit Bison. Eventually, I got rid of that. And I've always been on the other side of it, saying it's probably not that big a deal. But the amount that the amount that social media has grown from 2014 to now is unbelievable. The numbers of people that use Facebook, Instagram, back when we started to now, I think it's over quadruple. So it's been a huge jump since that period. So my perception on it right now is different than it was in 2014. I got it in 2014 to use for free marketing, and that's one thing that a business, it's almost foolish to not be on it. It's free. And another side of it was, this is back when I was a little judgy on social media. It's like, man, like, do I really want to scroll through pictures, see someone doing an overhead squat, clean, pull up, cool. And the caption is always, Sam crushing pull-ups, #CrossFit, Sam crushing overhead squats. I thought, to me, like, that was lame. And so I got it, and I was like, I want people on the outside that are going to see CrossFit Bison on Instagram to still know what we do and what we're all about. We did an episode on culture, and we built a culture. We defined a culture, and we built it. And then we're continuing to try and build it, massage it, make it better. I wanted anyone on the outside to be able to go read through 10 posts and get a good vibe for our gym. That was the purpose to me. Until even to this day, that's kind of 90% of what I like to use social media for the business, is because I know I do this as a consumer. If I'm dropping in somewhere in North Carolina, we're going to North Carolina in October for a week. I'm going to probably look at 2 or 3 different gyms on Instagram to see which one I want to go to.
Yeah, I do that.
And so and I know there's a lot of other people that do that as well. So if I want it to be like the fire breather gym where the top athletes in the world train, that's what my Instagram would be all about. If I was, no, we hate people that like to compete. We just want to work out and take it easy. That's what our Instagram would be. The thing that I've always wanted to put out on social media is that we're both. We love people that want to get after it. We love the people that are just coming in to check that box and live healthy and exercise. We want people that push the boundaries. We want people here that don't want to push those boundaries. We like people that compete. We support them. We love people that don't compete. We'll support them as well. Guys, girls, old, young, experienced, inexperienced. And that, to me, if I go look from an unbiased perspective, I'm biased, I'll admit it, right, about my own, I've made 1,390 posts. I've made 1,389 of them. All but one of the posts on CrossFit Bison's Instagram is from me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Every single one. And you can see, because some of them are really long and wordy, right?
Well, those I knew were yours.
Yes. And I think that I've always wanted someone to be able to read any 10 random posts from now or from 3 years ago and get a vibe for our gym. What is the culture like there? What do they teach there? What are their morals there? What is the leadership like at that gym? And I'm confident that if you look through 10 different posts, you'll get a good vibe for what we are.
You also use it as a message to the gym itself, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
In terms of who you feature, who you put on there. And I think you are very you've told me you're very scrupulous in terms of keeping track of who you put on the Instagram.
Yep. I started doing that in 2015 because I had someone say, like, it was Brittany Page. She goes, why is Brittany Page in like every other one of your posts? And I was like, no, she's not. And I went and I did. I think at that time we were like 200 posts in.
Okay.
So it was probably like a year, maybe a year and a half. And she was in like 7 of them. But I think if you were just on Instagram that day or that day after and like you skipped the other 9, but you saw her over and over, you're like, why does Dave keep putting her on that social media?
I mean, she's not a bad person to feature all the time.
No, not at all. And photogenic, very pretty, Brittany RC now, but also she moved well. She was a big presence of our gym as well. She was a big part of who we were early on. And yeah, you want people to know, like, that's the kind of person that's coming here right now.
She's still coming.
Yeah. But like that was why she was on it probably more than others early on.
I see.
But even now, to this day, I'll say one thing that can be hard is I take the picture, like we don't have a media team here. I take pictures. So there are certain classes I teach more than others.
Yeah.
So like when I teach a random midday class or a late night class, I always try to get someone in there, or if there's someone that I don't normally see, try to get pictures. I have thousands of pictures on my phone and computer of people working out. And eventually when I like a new post, like I'll scroll back 3 months and use that picture, you know, because you want to make sure as a business, if I'm going to say we don't only highlight the best athletes, you got to make sure you go through that Instagram and every other post is one of your best athletes. And that can be a challenge because in a lot of cases, they're also the ones that move well. Like there's some people in this gym I love, they're good. I ain't posting a picture of them doing an overhead squat, you know, because it looks terrible.
Or at least just a static photo of them not moving.
Right, exactly. Or the overhead position where everyone looks okay before they actually start squatting. But I think that's been one of the biggest challenges of running a social media for a gym. And I am by no means an expert on it whatsoever. Like I still don't even fully comprehend the usage of hashtags and timing of posting all this stuff.
Should you be farming this out to somebody else?
I've thought about it. And I would not be a control freak about it. But my fear on it would be that we would lose kind of some of the ethos behind the post of I still, no matter what, 5 years from now, still want people to get a vibe for the gym by reading the posts. And a lot of the posts that I see, even from good gyms, it's too plain. Like it's a cool picture, but it's just there's no feel. Like you don't get a vibe for the gym by reading the post.
I think what you could do, and I'm spitballing, and we haven't talked about this, is you should get other people, not me, but other people to contribute posts to you, and then you could sort of pick through them and be like,
that's a good idea.
You know what? I'll and save some of the grunt work so that you could be like, oh yeah, and they could and then you could put your own little spin on it or whatever you wanted.
Right. Or you just give someone else access to make posts whenever they want. Like, and I mean, should a business be putting content out every day?
Ideally, yes. I think there's so many algorithms. Algorithm gurus out there which tell you what time to post, how many times a week to post, all that.
Reels versus pictures,
right?
Like all this,
all that. So I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole, but I feel like, for my own business, if I can try to get, I struggle with mine, so I'm not even going to talk about mine,
right?
Because there's just so many different issues there,
right?
But I think it should be at least a couple times a week. It needs to be mixed up.
Agreed.
And there should be a mix of personal as well as like kind of more touchy-feely versus ethos and performance and all those kind of things. Like it needs to be diverse and like you said, not corporate-y feeling, but really
not too templated.
Not templated.
And like I think it's just like it's a very unique way to give a personality of what we do here, and that's like what I always circle back to. Now, something you mentioned earlier that I didn't really get to yet, we could talk about. Do I try to give messaging to our current members through our social media?
Very much so. To everybody. It's very messagey.
And I've had you, like, I think it was you, Sam, or someone else. I think there was a stretch where I think like 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 posts were a little like on the aggressive side, like almost like on the coaching side. And it was like someone was about scaling, someone was about suck it up and go harder. Some of it was like get the most out of yourself. And we're going to get into the consumer side of CrossFit in the next episode. But we can touch on it briefly here that if I remember correctly, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but I think you were not like in the best place at that time. You were upset or angry about something. It might have been like an injury or some performance. My question is always this. Like, I know how I get on social media. I'll talk about my own social media as well coming up. Not afraid to talk about that at all. I do get messagey, preachy maybe. And if you're not in the right mindset, if you're anti-something, anti-me, anti-programming, anti-gym, anti-CrossFit, my shoulder hurts, and you read that, that's a huge deal in terms of what the influence of the message itself. Because I've been in that case, and I'll give examples later in the consumer episode of like, if I'm not in a good place and I read a post that is coming from a good place and it is a good message, I'm like, fuck that.
You're right.
And so how much should that weigh into the producer, the content creator's idea of, is this a good post to put out? Albeit Sam might be in a bad mood, or these 18 people might be in a bad mood. It's hard to measure whether or not a post is effective. I'll say that.
Well, let me put it this way. I think the best posts elicit a reaction.
Right.
And whether it's and some people would say, well, if it's a bad reaction, it's still a reaction.
Right.
It's when they don't care about your post at all and ignore it,
Right.
that it's not working.
Right.
So, I think your posts can be polarizing in a certain way sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say that's fine, because you can't understand where my mindset is. You can't predict it.
Right.
You can only speak truthfully from where you're coming from.
Right.
And that's why I actually, like, I was going to kind of make fun of you a little bit, but not really. No, like this whole, the whiteboard one here.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at it, like, so it's like two full screens of text.
Yes.
And it was,
for my YouTube readers, that's one Instagram post right there.
It's super long. And I was like, are you allowed to write that much on a single Instagram post? But you are. And
I've been word limited before.
And I will say this, like, and it's because I know you, this isn't BS. This is what you truly believe. Everything you've written, I honestly can say you truly believe it 100% from your heart.
100%.
And I will take that any day of the week from anybody.
Right.
Anybody out there. Like, I would much rather read that and have a reaction, good, bad, or than be indifferent to it. And if I'm not in a good place, so be it. But if I'm but I should, as a consumer, look at it and learn to know that this is authentic and real, and that's how I should be dealing with it. And I think I have started to do that better when I look at things and realize, you know what, where is this person coming from? I follow them because it's real,
right?
Not because I agree with them,
right?
It's because it's a viewpoint that I understand they truly believe, and so that's okay. Like, it's okay if on a particular day I'm like, Dave's workout sucked and he was annoying, and so what he's writing right now is kind of annoying,
right? Like,
that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And like, I think that's something that when you put yourself out there in a social media post as a business, right? Content creator, producer, whatever you want to call yourself, right? You have to kind of know two things. You're not going to make everyone happy. You're actually going to piss some people off, even if your intentions are correct. And if you can't accept that, like if you do everything for likes, right? In my opinion, it's a very dangerous route to go down, because to me, like, it's like a cheap show of appreciation, or it's not real. Like, if you're ever walking around being like, oh, I got this many likes on this, that many likes on this. Now, I'll say this, as a business, I'm very much aware of what kinds of posts get the most likes.
Yes.
I'm looking at one that I made about Dan Coda.
Yeah.
On June 23rd, about a lifetime PR that he hit on Fran.
Yeah.
As a 40-plus-year-old.
Yeah.
With kids and jobs. And like, I wrote a few things about Dan in that thing that I started CrossFit with him. As people love to hear those stories of someone really accomplishing something, fighting through adversity. Right. Like, in my opinion, some of the most common posts that people get a lot of attention on are like someone that says, oh, I had a body image issue. I had an eating disorder. Now look at me. I love my body. Like, everyone loves to hear that. Right. You know, how real is the message? I don't know. But like, people still love to hear that.
The temptation is when you get a big response like that, you're like, oh, I'm going to feature more people like that. And then you start going down this rabbit hole where it's such a bad thing bad thing personally if you're posting, but also bad if you're a business. Right. You can't chase that.
Chase the likes.
Yeah, you cannot. And I think that is such a important message to give, just because that one hit, big for you. Right. Like, don't keep doing that.
No, yeah. I mean, and our biggest post that the most likes that our CrossFit Bison Instagram always gets is about like the gym accomplishing something, or like the holiday, the Bison Bowl, the Murphs, I mean, I hate to say it, sport gets a ton of attention on Instagram. Let's talk about that a little bit. As, CrossFit, there's CrossFit, and then there's CrossFit Games, right? CrossFit Bison just has one account. We don't have CrossFit Bison and then CrossFit Bison Sport, Instagram. Like, we're all together. We'll all do this together. Why should they be separate? CrossFit Games. And should a gym like us separate the sport and the fitness component on social media?
That's a really good and interesting question. I think there's arguments for and against.
Okay.
And did you hear Don Fall on the Jocko Willink? It was a long ass.
It was long. I actually haven't finished it.
Yeah.
I did the first hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think it was really interesting. It actually dove a ton into his Marine career, which if you're interested in that, it's actually really interesting. He actually served and he was in Afghanistan and all this sort of stuff. The one part he did talk about with media and with CrossFit and just organizational principles is that he said how siloed CrossFit HQ was.
Mm-hmm.
There was the sport, there was the affiliate side, and then there was the teaching side.
Right.
And he said that needs to change.
Okay.
And absolutely, CrossFit sport has been siloed, separate from CrossFit HQ or CrossFit affiliate stuff. And so there is an argument to be made. If you're one brand, you should brand it all together.
Right.
That being said, it depends on what you're using CrossFit Games for.
Right.
Like if you really want to make it huge, like rival UFC, make it an entertainment juggernaut, then you kind of have to silo it and make it its own Instagram, because they're not going to want the people who are interested in watching or seeing lifts from Laura Horvath or Roman Krennikov, destroy a workout, are not going to want to watch CAP affiliate programming posts or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't want to see old people get off a couch carrying milk jugs.
Right.
Like they just don't. That's not what people want to go on social media for.
But on the other hand, as HQ, how do you integrate all of that together, and how do you do that with social media?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't have the solution to that problem. I can just only speak from the affiliate owner side, and it's much easier to do on our scale. We don't have millions of people looking at our stuff. But to me, like, again, what is the culture? If he says he truly wants to combine it, then in my opinion, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Like, that sounds like a great PR statement. Oh, we want everyone to be together. But if you have all these separate Instagrams and accounts, then you don't. You do want it to be separate. And I think there is still some truth to CrossFit not running the games.
Well, let me ask you this. If you had 6 game quality athletes here, which would be like your biggest fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, would you not need to sort of have some channel to publicize and feature them that wasn't just part of CrossFit Bison?
I think about this a lot, and I think at certain points of the year, those 6 games athletes, like let's say 4. Let's say we had a games team. We had 4 games athletes that made it as a team. I still want it to be gym. Like they're part of the gym, the community. Like, I wouldn't want to have their own, but at certain points of the year, they'd be getting a huge amount of the attention. Like let's use on a lesser scale, let's use our quarterfinalists, right? When the Open comes around, at the end of the Open, a lot of people are like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done with the team scoring. I'm done with the where did I rank in today's WOD? No reps, scaled foundationals or X. And then a month later, we're making nonstop posts about people qualifying for quarterfinals, making stories about them doing their quarterfinal workouts. People show up and support them and give them and kind of raise them up and put them on a pedestal. And then we make a post after about them and it gets a lot of attention, and then a week later, it's back to normal. It falls off pretty quickly. If we had that kind of situation with games athletes, I wouldn't want to create my own Instagram for them. I would want them to be a part of the gym, but them being a part of the gym, especially in a highlight part of their season, they are going to be the presence of the gym for a long time. We are going to highlight them more than you doing, the PVC overhead squats on Monday morning. And you need to be okay with that. But at the same time, those high level athletes, I think if you start giving them their own everything, it can easily create a culture of them versus us, where they think they're better, or they actually maybe start thinking they're better. Because I've always told this to some of our competitors that do really well in things. I was like, just so you know, after your competition's over, you're like, let's look Legends, for example. Like, you get almost an uncomfortable amount of support, and you don't know what to do with it sometimes. But the Monday after, and I hate saying this because it sounds harsh, but no one cares anymore. That shit was last week. And you have to be okay with that. And I think sometimes if you create this culture of, hey, you're really good, we're going to highlight you for 3 weeks straight as you train for the games, you compete at the games, we, go out with you after the games. The next week, like, you're no longer the highlight, and you need to be okay with that. That's why I don't feel comfortable with always separating a situation like that.
How about your own personal brand? You are a brand yourself. I
mean, everyone is. Yeah.
You offer coaching, next level coaching.
Yep.
You programming services.
Mm-hmm.
Your personal Instagram, is it private or is it public?
It's private because I was public for a long time, but I honestly don't even know. I'm going to check right now. I think
because you have 208 posts, 1,073 followers.
1,000 of my mom, by the way. No, just kidding.
Wow, she's
she has a lot of accounts.
So
and 850, and I follow 850.
And you follow 800.
So it is private. I've been getting. I don't know if anyone else is getting. I'm getting like a lot of weird messages, like bots, like come check out this, like sell my supplements and stuff
I get
like
a
that.
few, not many.
So I get less when I'm private. So that's why I'm private right now.
Okay, but then what if someone wants to see what next level is like? Or
I mean, I do struggle with that back and forth a little bit. I mean, you're gonna have to follow, honestly, if you want to see it.
Request follow.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever turned someone down on that stuff. I'll get into some personal stuff with Instagram with like Brock and some stuff that's like coming into light right now that I'm getting a little worried about, like future wise. But keeping it to
your brand,
my brand, myself. I hate calling myself a brand.
You are a brand,
but. Yeah, owner, head coach, CrossFit Bison, co-host, HerdFit podcast, workouts, coaching, and lessons I've learned through CrossFit. Nothing more or less. So I made a decision in 2018. I had to get Instagram in 2018 to prove that I was working out at Coliseum. One of the avenues to prove to CrossFit, because I was coaching Bison and on a team that back in the day, to be on a team, you had to train there. The gym's 35-minute drive away. It's by Woodbury Commons, Coliseum Strength. One of the ways to prove is that you can timestamp a post of you working out there. And we also did some other stuff too to prove that I was going there 3 days a week.
This was really important because there were some members that actually got disqualified from teams for not meeting these qualifications.
I had someone reach out to me after they knew I was on that Coliseum team asking me how I was able to do that. They were thinking I was cheating. And I was like, the rule is this. I have to train there 3 days a week. I went there every Saturday, every Sunday, and then once during the week. And every time you go there, you would make a post about it. So I go from not having Instagram, my own personal Instagram, to making 3 posts per week about myself working out. All right. A little uncomfortable early on, but I actually got used to it. And I actually kind of liked it after a while, like watching, like I still can go back and watch these videos and training with Matt, Elise, Nicole. And like, it's fun. It brings you down memory lane. And so I kind of got into doing that because it's like a nice little, like not a training log because I'm not logging scores on there, but it's like, oh, that's what I was doing. Or that's what I used to look like when I lift. That's what I used to be able to do. I can't do it anymore. Sometimes it's upsetting. But that carried over into, I didn't stop posting after that. Like after that whole period was over, I kept making posts. And then you had a couple of people reach out, no matter what apparel. If you make 1 post a week, you tag us in this, you get X% of your sales per shirt. And then we had a supplement company do the same thing. So you start kind of building this desire / almost need to make a post once a week, once every 2 weeks. And then it got to a point like, all right, I no longer want to be told I have to make a post because I am big on, same with Bison Instagram. I want there to be a reason. There's something on my mind or something that occurred in my life that I would like to share. So the question comes down to that I still have a lot of discussions with other people that kind of go through the same thing is what are you trying? Why do you make a post, whether it's a story, a reel, a still shot of yourself working out? And do you ever worry about the line of coming across as bragging?
Thirst trap.
Yeah. What's thirst trap?
I don't know. It's my kids tell me like if you post something where you look really good in it. Or no, Hawkinson's big on saying thirst trap.
I don't even know what thirst trap is.
Yeah, it's like you're showing off and like everyone's like thirsty for you or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't think so. But that's where I think I had a conversation with one of our coaches about this last night that to me, social media, especially your personal, is a representation. It can be a representation of who you are and what you do. My post, I made a decision a long time ago. It's only going to be about CrossFit. Like I don't really use my Instagram to talk about political views, even my family life, other than like stories and stuff. That stuff that like disappears. Nothing ever disappears. But like if you look through all my posts, it's all CrossFit related. And if I want to make something outside of CrossFit related, I use Facebook for that. Like Ash's birthdays, Brock stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But my posts are all about CrossFit. And I want, again, it to be another resource for people to see that go to our gym or don't go to our gym of how I train. How do I view CrossFit? I take it seriously, but it doesn't define me, right? Like I've never been down that role. And I want people to see that I also have always said, like, I don't consider myself a very good athlete naturally. But I know I do work hard, and I know I've gotten close to mastering a lot of skill components of CrossFit. And I always like to use my own social media saying, if I can do some of the stuff that I've accomplished with CrossFit, I know you can too, because you're probably a better athlete than me naturally. You're probably more mobile and flexible. Like, I just did a video of myself doing overhead squats last week, Nancy.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And if you knew anything about my family and the level of flexibility that these people have, you know, like, those overhead squats don't come by just showing up. Like, I put a ton of work in over the years.
Yeah.
Ankles, hips, shoulders, thoracic, wrist, you know, all this stuff. And then I write the message. I'm 37. I just PR'd a time on a workout that I haven't done in a few years that just has 2 movements in it. And it's a kind of a hard workout to PR and it was over a minute. And am I bragging about that? I'm sure some naysayers will think that, but I'd rather use it as something like, you can do that too. And here's the question. I know there's people that don't like that stuff. I have been on the consumer side and not like what someone else posts as well. We're going to get into that next week, by the way. So I don't want to sound hypocritical. I've been on that side too. But now that I'm on this side where I'm creating posts about myself, jumping over boxes, doing muscle ups, doing snatches, I'm not impressed with myself. But I am trying to say, if I'm in a position at the gym where I talk about this a lot, if you don't walk the walk, in my opinion, you don't have the right to go talk in front of the class. And I want to show people that you can do that. That's the coaching side of it. The athlete side of it, you know, someone who's never made the games, right? But like, very open, like, that's one of my lifetime goals. I want to get there and compete there. I don't mind sharing what I do. I'm not secretive about what I do. I'm not Matt Frazier who's like, nope, can't tell anyone what I'm doing. Like, I'll tell you any day what I did for a workout. And one of my favorite things about creating some sort of content is that it creates conversations with other people. Like, the amount of people that will comment, hey, what was that workout? What was this? And it can really connect a lot of pieces together. But you also have to accept the risk that you are going to come across as braggy, cocky, into yourself, thirst trappy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess.
And if you're not okay with that, if you don't want to come across that way to anybody out there, then you probably shouldn't do it.
I think the danger is when they don't know that person. So if I didn't know you, I could misinterpret it
Absolutely.
that way.
Yeah.
Any different ways.
Yeah.
But when I know you and I look at these posts, I'm like, man, he couldn't even bend his knee like a year ago. Like,
7 months ago.
Yeah. I couldn't, or he's running. I can't believe he's actually running.
Yeah, right.
Like, or doing, like, when I saw you in class, like doing double unders. So I know where you are with it.
Right.
So when I see that and I'm like, okay, I see that on your post. I'm like, that's why he's posting.
Right.
But it's because I know you.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know me.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know you.
Even in this gym.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're a new member,
right,
and I did your beginner class on Tuesday, and all of a sudden you see me doing that, like, oh, he's one of those guys.
He's one of those guys who's showing off that he did Nancy and a PR, and he PR'd Nancy. Woo.
Yeah.
I mean, so yes, but that's the danger of social media.
It is.
And again, all you can do is be honest with yourself.
Right.
Not worry necessarily about, I mean, to a certain degree, not worry about whatever everyone else is thinking.
Right.
And just keep doing you. It's hard though.
Here's another thought. It is hard. And I go back and forth in my head. Should I do this? Should I not? And like, I always come back to like, why am I doing this? Ask myself that question. If I'm happy with that answer, nothing else truly matters. But here is a question that, I had this desire. Do you ever wish that one of your parents or people older than you had social media back when they were 20, 30, 40 years old to kind of see like what their lives like? I still love seeing pictures of like where my mom grew up in Africa. You know, like, my mom would have had a kick-ass Instagram account if they had it back then. She lived in Kenya for 19 years. Like, that would have been something I would have loved to be able to watch. And I look at it from a parent perspective that if he wants to, I want Brock to look back on my social media in 15, 20 years and be like, that's what my dad was like when he was back then. This is some of the things he said, the things he did with his body.
Could you not, but the argument would be, could you not have just kept all those pictures and
private?
And then just shown them to Brock later?
Yeah, but I don't think that's the way our world works anymore. Who the hell has picture albums anymore? Everything is on our phones, and he's going to be on social media at some point. That shit's not going anywhere. And I think the answer is, you could definitely keep it private.
How do you feel about when Brock is older and they look at his dad's Instagram account and it's like, and then whatever reaction it is, positive, negative.
I mean, it'll be both, I'm sure.
And he's like, Dad,
I'm embarrassed by this.
Yeah, can you just take down this post? Or
I mean, that's something I'll probably cross that bridge when I get there, but I know that's coming because we just had Sasha in last week. She did an awesome job. Parent-teen relationships are never just smooth. There's a lot of ups and downs, and parents embarrass their kids sometimes. Like I've been embarrassed by my parents when I was growing up for no mature reason whatsoever, other than the fact that I was just an immature teenager.
We all were.
Right. And so it's hard to question, should you put a lot of merit into a 12, 13, 14-year-old when you're making posts? Here I am as a 37-year-old. Should I be worried about that? I mean, I'll say this. I'm not very confrontational on my social media posts. Like, I'm not talking about like Donald Trump and Joe Biden or abortion or some of the biggest issues that we have in our world right now, because I know that can set us up for a lot of different issues. And I want to get into that as a content creator at some point. But no, I'm not worried about anything because I'll stand by everything that I've ever posted. Whether it's cool, whether it's not cool, whether it's long, whether it's short, whether it's a video, whether it's a picture, I don't think I've ever gone back and deleted anything off my social media.
Fair enough.
The last thing I want to touch on a producer side of this, and I'm curious to see from your business, and I'll talk about my perspective. Do you have any control over people that you work with? All right. Do you have people that work for you? Do you have any policy in place of what they are or are not allowed to put out on social media and how it can relate to your business and as a representation?
For me, it's easy. I only really have two people who I work with closely.
Yeah.
And they just have their own personal Instagram accounts. They're not like, they don't have agendas or branding or purposes or anything like that. So I don't worry about that. For larger organizations, I could completely see that. And I've seen that kind of controversy with CrossFit gyms and coaches.
Yeah.
Posting. I'm not sure how I would handle that. Have you had issues with coaches or anyone else like posting something that you thought was inappropriate or did not represent your brand, so to speak?
Never. But I know of coaches from other gyms that have getting really political, like being right-wing, left-wing, criticizing. Like, I'll give an example without saying the gym, but there was a coach at a gym that was constantly on his personal account blasting anti-abortion posts, like pretty aggressive. And if I was trying to put myself in the shoes of the owner, that if you had a coach doing that and it was really offending a lot of people in the gym, do you have a right to tell that person they're not allowed to post that? Technically, you don't.
You don't have a right.
And you can probably get in some legal trouble if you were to fire them over something like that. You'd be like, in terms of like the freedom of speech rules.
Absolutely.
So, but that's something that I've thought about over the years. It's like when you do hire someone, it's not about what are they posting on social media, but it's like, how do they have a filter? Do they want to go out of their way to create controversial topics? And does that have a place in a gym business where this is relationship based? It's subscription based, meaning everyone could cancel tomorrow. And think about some of the COVID social media posting that even some of our members were doing, where like it was just getting to a point you were pissing off a lot of people and you were doing it on purpose too. And if that was a coach, that can ruin a vibe that you have at the gym. So should a part-time coach, Sam, have pressure on what you post on your social media in relation to the people that you serve here at Bison?
The answer is no, never. It's freedom of speech. And if it's your personal Instagram account, you should be free to post whatever you want.
Yeah.
And your employer should not have your employment dependent on or make it contingent on what you're posting. As long as you're following, rules of free speech, like you're not advocating for the overthrow of the government or, something where you're, advocating murder. I don't know, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, things that are violating the law.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, as an employer, you could have, if you wanted to, in your legal contract with those coaches, conduct policies.
Yeah.
I mean, most professional sports do that for their athletes and so forth.
Yep.
things where you could be let go, even though it's technically you're infringing on their free speech because it's conduct detrimental to the league or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So you should be able to say whatever you want. I think you have to realize your employment may depend on what you write.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yep. Which is an unfortunate example, but
It
true.
is. It's a very unfortunate example.
Really unfortunate example.
Because he's. I mean, I don't know about now, but he was good. Like he belonged in the league. He was better than, I would say, there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. He was probably better than 25 of them, and almost every backup.
That might be the biggest stain on the NFL.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. And I think history will bear out that we'll look back at that and say, what the heck was everyone thinking? That this was a travesty.
Yep.
But yeah, I think as a gym, you say you're curating your image, you're presenting a brand, you're trying to present whatever it is. And I know certain gyms present different branding. Like I know CrossFit Mayhem, for example, they lean in on being Christian, and Rich Froning is very open about his religious beliefs. A lot of his t-shirts have biblical quotes on them.
Yep.
And so, yeah, if he had someone who was like a Satanist who was on his staff and started posting stuff like that,
it's tough.
free speech. He's going to fire them
right.
and figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how else you're going to manage that at that point.
Good thing I'm married to an HR professional.
She'd figure out a way.
Yeah, she'll figure out a way. Last thing on the content producer side, and then we'll wrap it up. Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's unhealthy? You might have never even thought about this, but the people that do posts every day, every time they're at the gym, they got to do it. Again, some people are gonna be like, dude, get over yourself, right? Other people, but there might be I don't want to say a demon, but there might be something inside that person that it helps them stay accountable. You know, I know a lot of people that have produce a post every single time they work out, whether it's a selfie, whether it's a video, whether it's back and forth, and there's time that goes into it, editing, all this stuff. And if it helps them stay accountable to themselves, go to the gym and like, hey, not that you have rows of people lining up waiting for you to make your post, but people will see it. And that makes me want to work harder. Is that a bad, unhealthy habit? Again, opinion, neither one of us have really thought this much. It's not even in our outline, but I'm always trying to relate social media to our health, mental health primarily. Is it unhealthy to feel like you have to use social media to keep yourself accountable?
I was that way. I think when I first started CrossFit and Instagram first started like to me together. Like my very first post on my personal account was back in 2014, and I said, "Oh, check out CrossFit Bison, like awesome."
Yeah.
So my rise in social media coincided with my journey in CrossFit.
Right.
And there was a lot of there were plenty of posts some I might have taken down, some I might have left where it coincided with my self-esteem, with and a whole mix of reasons. I think most of us post because we want the validation when a lot of people like our posts.
Right.
A lot of us post because we want to show off, like how swole we look, thirst trap type stuff.
Yep.
Some of it is because, like you said, we have a certain message we want to get out there. I think the biggest issue is when it's tied to your self-esteem. And whether you're posting, the daily post gets tedious for a lot of people. And I bet you if someone posted every day just to try to keep accountable, your friends are going to be like,
get sick of this.
What the
We had a little bit of that over COVID. We had a few people posting every single day, and I think it was an accountability thing. They missed the gym. Everyone was kind of like thrown off. And I had people not even from the gym like, man, like you repost the same person every single day. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like I kind of have to do it. But.
And I don't have a problem with people posting all the time. I know some people complain, and I'm like, you know what? It doesn't bother me one whit.
Right.
I always just wonder, what is it that's motivating them to post every day? And if you're posting it for yourself to keep yourself accountable, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But if you're posting because you're like, look at me, I'm working out every day.
Self-esteem needs a boost.
Yeah, and you need a boost. Or
Dopamine rush.
right, yes. Like, I need to do this. Now, not so awesome.
Yeah. And that also, at some point, I think you're going to realize it's not the way to make yourself happy. Like, because it's kind of like a fake world. I've always said it's like a fantasy more than reality, social media. And at some point, you're going to learn that. And if you think that you're getting all this self-worth, self-esteem, likes, right? That's what's making you happy. And if you don't get them, you are now unhappy. There's definitely a deeper issue that needs to be discussed. You need to seek help with that kind of stuff, because of social media, it's not going to solve those problems.
I think for younger people, it's more of an issue than older.
Absolutely.
Because we didn't grow up. Like you said, we started late.
Yeah.
So we weren't tied up with it. But if I could see when you're 15 and you started, or 12 or something,
yeah,
it's a big part of your identity.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that next week, because we're going to wrap this up now. But like the consumer side of it and some of the mental health issues that teenagers are now struggling with, a lot of that come from social media. And so if you're on it a lot, you just have to be very careful there. So again, I just want to wrap this up with, the business side of it. Those that run a gym or run a social media account for a business, for a gym, I think it's a great way to give the perception of your culture. I'm not saying I do it right. If anything, I probably get, again, too wordy, too preachy sometimes, but that's the way I've wanted to do it since day one. You don't need to do it that way, but I do think you can use it to show what your culture is to people that are not there. And on the personal side of it, I think as long as you know why you're doing it, you don't let yourself get too concerned with what others might think, because, the day you realize that you're not on this earth to make everyone else around you happy and fully understand you, you're going to be much happier, and you don't need to be understood by everyone. I think that's something that everyone needs to understand. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.